Another edition of the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. Happy Thanksgiving to all, and thank you to you, the listeners, for chiming in all throughout the football season. I am Tim Murray here at the D, ready to run through a massive slate of Week 14 games. No bye weeks this week. Everybody is playing. No FCS games. We're ready to roll through a whole bunch of games. Matt Youmans on assignment, a.k.a. at the Lahaina Civic Center out in Maui. But it's a Wednesday when we're recording this, so why not kill two birds with one stone? Bring in Wes Reynolds, Wednesdays with Wes, the award-winning new addition to the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. Mr. Reynolds, happy Thanksgiving. I know not an ideal weekend last weekend. However, your beloved Hoosiers still in the field in the latest installment of the rankings.
It is great to be on the Marconi-winning VSiN College Football Betting Podcast with you, Tim. But yeah, I was paying very close attention to the rankings. Usually with Indiana football, it's like, I don't care. I'm a bettor. Just put a side and a total when you make the matchups. But now it's like we're living and dying by these things, Tim.
I know.
And Indiana goes at 10, where I thought that they would be. Didn't necessarily like SMU jumping them, so they're not quite a lock to get in with a win in the bucket game on Saturday over Purdue, but still feel that they're at least in solid shape.
Well, no doubt about it, and they will be going for the old wagon wheel? No?
The old Oaken Bucket.
Oaken Bucket. I was thinking Maction there. Demerit immediately for me. All right, enough of that. We're going to try to run through as many games as possible. Loaded up weekend. Games on Friday. Tons of games on Saturday. It's Thanksgiving, so finally this name actually makes sense. Let's get to the biggest games of the week.
The main course.
Yes, indeed, and you'll be hungry, actually probably full by the time these games roll around. Let's head to Saturday night, 7:30 on ABC. First time in a decade and a half that these two rivals will be going head-to-head. Texas taking on Texas A&M West, and this game will be played at Kyle Field. We have seen money come in on Texas A&M this week, and this is a fascinating spot because if you looked at the market on Sunday before the folks here at Circa went to the market, DraftKings and FanDuel were offering 7s and 7.5s. Now the market sitting around 5.5. I was able to scoop, fortunately, that 7, but still thought it was playable at 6 earlier this week. That would be an official play for me. Texas A&M coming off the loss to Auburn. What do you make of this spot, Texas A&M and Texas?
Yeah, I took 6 here as well with the Aggies. And by the way, winner goes to the SEC championship game in Atlanta next week to face Georgia. So kind of loser leave town. I think especially more for Texas A&M, considering I think if they lose, no chance for the college football playoff. Texas, of course, I think they would be in win or lose if they make that SEC title game. But you know, the Aggies, they gave it away down on the plain against Auburn last week. They had Auburn, I think, in the second half, and Auburn goes to multiple overtimes to go ahead and beat them. Aggie defense did give me a little bit of concern. They gave up almost a little less than 500 yards to Auburn, but I am on them this week. I just think Texas, they've left us wanting something more all season, right, Tim? If we look at them, I think metrics-wise, especially defensively, they're only allowing 12 points a game. They're allowing a little bit less than 250 yards a game. They're number one in opponent yards of play on defense, 3.8 yards of play. But there's something missing, I think, with this offense, and I think that the competition, it's been fair to criticize Texas. Now, imbalanced schedule in the league, they have no control over that, but they really don't have that marquee win like a lot of teams that are in the mix in the college football playoff. Their best win, I think, over Vanderbilt. Texas does get the win over Kentucky. Kentucky gets in the back door late and covers, but this is Aggies for me because this would be like typical Aggies, right? They don't win the game that they should, and then they win the game that they shouldn't. And I think that that's been the story of Texas A&M football for at least about 3 or 4 decades.
Think about the bookend of the year for Texas A&M. You open up college game day in town. Notre Dame comes to town. Close game. Notre Dame gets a late touchdown to make it a little bit more bigger than it was. That was a very closely contested game, 23-13. Now you wrap up the regular season against Texas. I was actually happy, in addition to the fact that I bet Auburn last week, but I felt like maybe we'd get a little bit of value value here on Texas A&M. But what's interesting to note, the look-ahead line at DraftKings, 5.5. Market now, once again, coming back down to 5.5. So it's a clean sweep. Matt Youmans also on Giga Maggie. So there you go. The three of us riding with the Aggies down there in College Station. Let's go to Big Noon on Fox, Ohio State and Michigan. We know certainly this situation is one that the Ohio State Buckeyes might be looking to run it up a little bit. And we saw it last week. I know you're an Indiana Hoosier. Probably didn't like that late touchdown. I certainly didn't. Here on the podcast, the number I got was 51.5. I played 51.5. I played 52.5. I did play 53.5, which still got there on the under, but unfortunate loss there on the under. Ohio State, Michigan, not a game I've gotten involved in. However, you know that Buckeye fans and Ryan Day would love to make this as ugly as possible against their hated rival up north.
No question about it, because he's had to hear the fact that, hey, you can't beat the school up north, and hasn't done so, but they're going to do so on Saturday. Now, are they going to do it by more than the number? I think that's already taxed in a little bit at close to 3 touchdowns. And I think the number, if I do get involved, I would lean with blue here with Michigan, because I think their defense is good enough at least to kind of keep Ohio State at bay. This is still a very good defense. This is still a really good defensive line as well that – you know, they've got 10 sacks the last 2 games. They're only allowing 94 yards on the ground per game. And you've got an Ohio State offensive line that we know is less than 100%. Had to do a little bit of a reshuffle last week. And even I thought Indiana gave them problems early in the game. I know Travion Henderson broke that late run late to kind of make the rushing stats look a little bit more hefty. But Indiana, I thought, did a really good job against the Ohio State running game. And I think Michigan even a little bit more equipped on the defensive line. So 21 or better, I think, would be worth a small play on the Wolverines.
The battle of the Palmetto State, South Carolina, and Clemson. This is one of the bigger movers from the look-ahead line. Look-ahead line last week was 4.5, now 2.5. Both played FCS opponents last week, so nothing really happened last week. The thing I'd keep an eye on here is the injuries on the Clemson offensive line. If they're fully healthy, I certainly could be interested in Clemson, but I love this South Carolina defense. You could argue best defensive line in the SEC, which is certainly saying something. And you look at these rankings, the most recent rankings, when you look at this, 15 for South Carolina, still behind Alabama and Ole Miss, who they lost to head-to-head. But boy, would this be a big win for the Gamecocks. Likewise for Clemson, right? 2 losses so far for Clemson. They need Miami to lose in order to get into the ACC championship. But if Notre Dame were to lose, or someone else in that top 10 were to get upset, Clemson might be able to slip into the playoff with a marquee win. This would no doubt be their biggest win of the year for the Clemson Tigers. Under a field goal at home. Any thoughts on Clemson, South Carolina?
Yeah, as a pro wrestling connoisseur, Tim, this is an old loser leave town match, when the loser of the match is going to leave the territory, and that's what it is here in the Palmetto State with these 2 teams. Clemson, I think a loss here, they're out. And to make the ACC title game, by the way, and we'll get to Miami-Syracuse later, they would need Miami to lose up there in the Carrier Dome, but I kind of lean South Carolina here. I think that Clemson has kind of feasted on lower competition so far this year. They lost to Louisville at home. South Carolina, I think, more quality wins this year. So I think their defensive line is really good. And Clemson's given up 11 sacks in the last 3. Give me the Gamecocks here. I have not bet this yet, but that'd be where I go if I bet it on Saturday.
Yeah, you just think Lenoris Sellers, if he's healthy the whole – there's a lot of what-ifs in the South Carolina schedule. Refs really weren't on their side against LSU. The injury at times of Lenoris Sellers. But, yeah, they've got some impressive wins. Like you, haven't bet this one yet. Wish I'd gotten that 4.5 in the look-ahead market. All right, last one in the main course. I will be in attendance in this game, and I'll just say we'll keep it family-friendly, but there will be serious clenching in this one. I am terrified of this spot. Notre Dame at USC. Notre Dame wins this game. They're in the playoff. They're hosting a playoff game. They lose this game. I think they're out. The market doesn't necessarily agree with that, but we could discuss that here a little bit later. Matt Youmans, no surprise here, taking the home dog in USC, and I think you're going to follow suit. USC catching 7.5 at home against the Irish on Saturday afternoon. CBS Yes, 3:30 Eastern.
Yeah, I am on the men of Troy here at 7.5. And usually this would be a go-against spot when you get a team that gets bowl eligible and gets that 6 win. There's that sense of accomplishment, right? But USC, I don't think is going to let down at the end of the season against Notre Dame. They're going to give a massive effort here. By the way, this is Notre Dame's first true road game since they played at a very poor Purdue team,
right.
Shall we say.
They've traveled, but they have not played a true road game.
Yeah.
They played Georgia Tech at Falcon Stadium, Yankee Stadium last week, but yes, haven't faced the true road environment since Purdue, September 14th.
And I think, I don't think USC is going to be living high off the hog, having beaten UCLA at the Rose Bowl last week. I think that they're going to be ready to go. Maiyava's starting to get a little bit more comfortable, I think, running the offense, just has to, avoid taking those big sacks and killing those drives. But I think there's a lot of pressure on the Irish here. And this is kind of the sneaky potential upset on the card. I think this is going to go down in the final possession, so give me the Trojans.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments, and I'm not going to bet the game. I am terrified of how this game is going to play out. Notre Dame, historically in L.A., has not blown out USC. You look at their last couple of wins against USC in Los Angeles. They won by a touchdown in 2018. They won by 9 points back in 2012. Both of those were playoff/national championship level teams. The 2012 team losing to Alabama. So I agree. We talked about it last week a little bit. The pressure sets in on these teams, and Notre Dame, the pressure's all on them. This game's close. I think for Notre Dame, Wes, before we hit a break, I think Notre Dame needs to kind of punch USC in the mouth out of the chute, and that's how they can roll in this spot. But a best bet for you, taking the points with Matt Youmans also on those dirty Trojans. All right, much more to come as we work our way through Week 14 of the college football season. It is the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast.
This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
Confirm I did not speak to Wes Reynolds during the break as he has bet USC, and I'm disgusted with him, and I don't even want to look at his face the rest of this podcast. No, just kidding.
As opposed to any other broadcast.
That's true. One other note to throw across here with Notre Dame. Unlikely they will have Howard Cross, their best interior lineman. Now, Donovan Heinisch has played well in his replacement here, but Notre Dame certainly dealing with some injuries there. So best bets in those main courses from Matt Youmans, myself, and Wes Reynolds. But after you eat that Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday, you might hit up a little Taco Bell or a Del Taco on Friday. So let's get to those matchups here this weekend.
Muy caliente. Spicy matchups.
Yeah, sometimes I guess some people don't think that Del Taco and Taco Bell is all that spicy. All right, Diego Pavia, the underdog king, 7-1 ATS as a dog this year. And let's be honest. Yes, this is technically a road game for Tennessee. There's going to be a whole lot of Rocky Top faithful there in Nashville on Saturday. This game at noon Eastern on ABC. And another one of those spots, Wes, where the pressure is going to set in. Tennessee, maybe the most delighted out of any team of what happened last weekend with the losses to Alabama, the losses to Ole Miss. They're now in the playoff field as it stands right now as the number 9 overall seed. They're catching 11, 10.5, depending on where you look. Is Diego Pavia and the Commodores feisty again in the dog roll?
I say go Diego go. I don't know if your child has
Dora
ever watched
Explorer?
that.
There we go.
That is a spinoff of Dora the Explorer, actually. So I'm saying go Diego go with Diego Pavia again. By the way, Vanderbilt last 7 times getting 7 or more. 7-0 as an underdog. So. Yeah, look, they're bowl eligible. Credit to Clark Lee, of course, the big upset of Alabama, but this is the biggie for the Commodores down there in Nashville. And Tennessee, slow start last week against UTEP and then put an overmatched team away. But I think that there's the pressure on Tennessee because I think Tennessee probably where they ranked in the playoff, Tim, this is a win and in situation. I think for the Vols, they're probably going to be kind of in that 8-9 range, you would think, when the final bracket comes out in 2 weeks. But The offense just hasn't been crisp. Nico's only thrown 5 touchdown passes in SEC play. So this offense that was such a juggernaut in the non-conference really has been anything but here in SEC play. And Vanderbilt, look, they'll run Diego too. And now he's taken a beating this year, but he's been tough. They hung in with LSU last week, even though LSU got the money. Vanderbilt gets the cover. I think they've got something here. I think this is going to be a one-score game, so give me the Doors.
And you think of Diego Pavia's history as a double-digit dog going back to his time at New Mexico State. He's been phenomenal in this double-digit role, winning obviously outright against Alabama this year, losing in overtime to Missouri. So Diego Pavia, Jerry Kill, that duo, and Jerry Kill, of course, on this Vanderbilt staff, has been incredible in this role. Matt Youmans' best bet as well, taking Vanderbilt. So just a quick update, Matt as well on Texas A&M, USC, and Vanderbilt. All right, 3:30 Eastern, ESPN. Look, last week, sometimes you get fortunate, and I felt like, all right, I was unfortunate with the overhitting in Ohio State, Indiana, but almost at the same exact time, UConn gets in the back door with a late touchdown. So maybe it canceled itself out because I was on UConn plus the points. We talked about this game last Wednesday, maybe as a double-digit dog that could win outright. Syracuse dominated this game, and I think it was very fortunate to get this cover. So why I bring this up, Syracuse now catching double digits at home against Miami. Another pressure spot. Miami needs to win this game to get to the ACC championship. They lose this game, they're not going to the ACC championship, and they're probably out of the college football playoff. So pressure is on Mario Cristobal's squad here. Fran Brown, give him a lot of credit this season. He's been great for the Syracuse Orange. And Kyle McCord, man, I felt like I don't know, I thought he was maybe given a little bit of the scapegoat there at Ohio State. He could throw the ball to the other team, no doubt, but he can also sling it. I like Syracuse's chances to keep this thing close. Give me the points with the Orange here. I took 10.5 on Sunday. You can get 11s out there now. Give me the Orange here in this spot.
No bet for me yet, but if I were to do anything with this, and I know it's a very high total, I could only look at the over here because I think that we know Miami, they give up big plays. Oftentimes, and they really have done so. They've been in some shootouts really all year, and you got a Syracuse team that really struggles to run the ball. They're near the bottom of FBS in a lot of the running metrics, rushes per play, rushing yards per game, et cetera, et cetera. So they're going to throw the ball, and we've seen them with McCord. You mentioned he'll throw it to the other team, but he'll throw it to his guys too, and they'll let him throw it early and often. This guy is going to throw 50 times, 55 times. I've seen him throw 60 times in a game this year. Certainly did it out here in Las Vegas when they beat UNLV at Allegiant Stadium. So I think this is going to be a shootout indoors up there in Western New York.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about weather inside there. Total sitting at 67 at circa 11s across the board, so make sure you grab the best number. This will be, no doubt, a hold on to your butt special because Miami is not going to get much resistance with their offense on the field. So you got to hope that maybe Cam Ward throws a couple to the other team. It's funny, we're now headed to our 7th game of the podcast. In most years, this would be number 1 without a doubt. Auburn at Alabama, and this is one of the biggest moves from last week's look ahead to now. The look ahead line at DraftKings last week when Matt Grill of DraftKings Sportsbook joined us on VSiN Primetime, 15.5. Alabama loses at Oklahoma. Auburn goes ahead and beats Texas A&M, a 4-point move on this game. Crimson Tide laying 11.5 on the outside looking in, needing probably a decent amount of help. They would certainly be big fans of USC on Saturday afternoon. 3:30 Eastern on ABC. Alabama laying 11.5. Any interest in the favorite here in maybe a bit of an overreaction to what we saw last week?
Have not bet this as of yet, and I'm not sure I'm going to because I want to figure out if this Auburn resurgence on offense is absolutely for real. Because you look, they got 48 a couple weeks ago against UL Monroe. That's an overmatched team. They had 507 yards against them, beat them 48-14. But last week, Tim, I think 469 yards against a good Texas A&M defense. So has Auburn finally figured something out? has Peyton Thorne finally, been kind of up and down most of the season, the former Michigan State quarterback? Has he figured it out late? We know Jarquez Hunter can give them some big games on the ground. I want to see how Alabama rebounds, because Alabama, despite the fact they have a third loss, they put them 13th in the college football playoff standings. So there's still maybe some little bit of life, which I think, scares you if you're an Indiana partisan or Miami or any of those teams that are rated in the top 12 above them. So I don't know. This Alabama team just has been down this year. It's a first-year coach with Kalen DeBoer down there, new coordinators. It's a new operation on all sides of the ball, and I just don't think they've been as good this year. They only scored 3 at Oklahoma last week. Oklahoma, an easy cover and an easy winner outright. So I don't know if I'm really wanting to get with Alabama here. It'd probably be Auburn or pass for me.
Let's head to the Grand Canyon State, the Territorial Cup in Tucson, Arizona State. Couple notes about this game. Arizona State, best cover team in college football, 9-2 ATS. Arizona, worst cover team in college football, 2-9 ATS. South Point's game of the year line in July, Arizona 17. Wouldn't it be nice to have Arizona State plus 17 going into this spot? A 26-point move from the summer game of the year line to now. We've talked about it a bunch here on this show, the pressure. Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham, think about it this way, Wes. In September, Arizona State closed a 3-point dog at Texas State. Mm-hmm. They're now laying 9 on the road against Arizona. I feel like this has been, I don't even feel it. It's been a disaster of the year for Arizona. Brent Brennan, there's been rumors out there that their buyout money is already out there. I think you hold your nose, and I'm going to take the Wildcats here plus the 9. Maybe we get 10 at some point if the money starts coming in here, Wes. But, boy, this is quite the role reversal for Arizona State, especially after beating BYU, storming the field not once but twice last weekend.
Yeah, the duel in the desert here as Arizona State, having playoff aspirations, controls their destiny in the Big 12. But I'm going to go with the dog here. I'm going to go with the Cats. Bear down here. I just think, best cover team against worst cover team. You know where I'm going, Tim.
Of course
we're going with the Arizona Wildcats. Cam Scatabo has been terrific for Arizona State, as has Sam Levitt running the ball. But I think that there's a lot of pressure, and based on how Kenny Dillingham reacted to the referees against BYU when they stormed the field the first time, is the pressure going to get to him here? If the pressure's getting to you on a field storming, is it getting to you at this game? But I digress. Kenny Dillingham has been good this year, but I think Arizona shows up on Saturday.
3:30 Eastern on Fox. I might have to watch the movie Speed to get back into this. Remember Sandra Bullock?
Yes.
Wearing the Wildcat? Went right over her head when Keanu Reeves called her Wildcat. Can Indiana name the score against their in-state rival? We'll keep it rolling here. It is the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast.
This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
Just a reminder, please rate, review, and subscribe to the VSiN College Football Podcast wherever you are. And as I said to Adam Burke earlier in the week, there's a lot of uncomfortable conversations that happens at Thanksgiving, which I understand. But when you're talking to your uncle who maybe doesn't align with you politically, what brings everyone together is the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. So just remind people that it's out there. It's free.
No tariff talk here on this program.
We just keep rolling, and hopefully we keep giving winners. We've had some good weeks. Let's keep it rolling here. Please rate, review, and subscribe. All right, Wes, the man named Kirk Cignetti, coming off of a loss, his first loss as the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers. They come in at number 10 in the most recent rankings there for the College Football Playoff Committee, giving them the 11 seed, so still alive. 7 o'clock on FS1. The old Oaken Bucket, as you reminded me. Purdue at Indiana. Indiana laying a big old number here at 29, even a 29.5. And my question to you, Wes, is do you go onto DraftKings and take that little lever and just go all the way to 38, 39? Just keep on going with those alt lines on Indiana here.
This is probably the worst Purdue team that I've seen maybe in my lifetime.
They're horrible.
Actually, and that goes back a few years. This is not a good team. Ryan Walters probably going to be back. This has just been a disaster of a year. It's a big number in a rivalry game. This is Purdue's bowl game. This is the Bloomington Bowl for them going on the road to Memorial Stadium. But I don't know if I want to lay this number. I think if you want to attack it, though, you maybe go Indiana team total.
Okay.
Perhaps over, that's a big one, 41.5, 42.5. That might be the way to go because I feel like, or even take the over for the game because I feel like Purdue might get a couple scores. They'll run every trick in the book here. They're not going to a bowl game, so they'll do all kind of things to try to just stay in the game. First time in a long time it's been a night game for the bucket game, Tim. We usually don't get that. It's usually kind of early in the morning, kind of just isolated because it's Ohio State, Michigan time. At that time, it's like, well, Purdue and Indiana are playing today? Well, yeah, they're playing, and it does matter for the Hoosiers. So, look, I don't think there's much of a difference in the playoff rankings if they win by 28 or 35. But it's probably not a good idea to win like 23-17 or something like that. You probably want to be a little more impressive if you're Kurt Cignetti. And I think that this is going to be a long evening for Purdue down in Bloomington.
Well, a place that is used to night games is Baton Rouge, and they get one on Saturday. A battle of unranked foes, Oklahoma and LSU. Oklahoma, let's be honest, they won their Super Bowl on Saturday. They beat Alabama. Very impressive performance as a 14-point dog. They win 24-3. The defense is flying around, and LSU wins, doesn't get the cover. There was a big article this week by Bruce Feldman on The Athletic, kind of breaking down the Brian Kelly era to this point. Let's give you the Cliff Notes. It wasn't good for the former Notre Dame head coach. It feels like everybody's written off LSU. Understandably so. We saw them a couple weeks ago at home get absolutely embarrassed by Alabama. They're laying 6 here. Oklahoma, they got bowl eligible. They beat Alabama. I'm curious. I don't want to say how much they care, but this kind of feels like a good buy low spot on LSU against Oklahoma. Curious your thoughts on this one with LSU laying 6.
It does, and LSU in the last 7 years, 5-1-1 against the number in their home finales. So Oklahoma comes in, held Alabama to 234 yards. That was Alabama's season low, intercepted Jalen Milroe 3 times. We know the defense is good because Brent Venables is the coach, and he's a former Broyles Award winner for best college football assistant as a defensive coordinator for many years down there at Clemson. But the offense still leads a little bit to be desired. This is not the old Lincoln Riley offense where they're putting up 40, 45 a game. Jackson Arnold did run for 131 against Alabama last week, and LSU has struggled a little bit with those mobile quarterbacks, but I think LSU snapping that 3-game losing streak last week kind of, got some momentum back. I think this number's too low. I think the Tigers are just way more dynamic offensively. So I think at least a 2-touchdown win for Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Bring your sissy blue shirts. Let's go to Fox, 7:30 on Saturday. A ranked matchup, Kansas State and Iowa State. Number 24, K-State. Number 18, Iowa State. Wes, I'm going to make you recite all 256 possibilities for the Big 12 championship. No, let's get to this game. Kansas State has been a bit of a disappointment this year. A team that on this podcast, I backed them to win the Big 12 championship. And you know what? Purple Cat fans, come at me because once I put that bet into the account, they lost to Houston. So it's all gone south for there. Kansas State was catching 3 earlier this week. It looks like Circa, at time of record, still has a 3 out there if you're intrigued by the dog. Any interest here in, what do they call it, Farmageddon?
I believe that's what it is. There are names at Jack Trice Stadium there on Saturday night. Yeah, in terms of the scenarios, we don't have enough time to get into them, but as of now, Arizona State and Iowa State would be the Big 12 championship game with the winner going to the college football playoff. I don't think the Big 12 is getting more than one team. I think that's their max. Colorado and BYU still have some things that can happen too where they could be one of the two, but Yeah, Kansas State has been a little bit of a disappointment because I thought that they were, even when BYU was rolling, even when they were undefeated, I thought Kansas State, they're the best team in this conference. And then they inexplicably lose to Houston. And then I thought, okay, the bounce back spot is against Arizona State. Arizona State's been living high on the hog, winning close games. They dominated Kansas State. Kansas State never had a chance, beat them by double digits in the Little Apple when it was a little bit chilly on Saturday night. No problem for them. So, this is a coin flip game. If you made me, I would lean with Kansas State. I don't have a really great read on this one because I think you've got two teams that have just been too inconsistent this year.
It's funny when you think back to all of that preseason prep that we did and the podcasts and everything. The two of the three top teams in the Big 12 based off of the odds, Utah and Oklahoma State, they are a combined 1-15 in Big 12 play, and a team that is stunningly winless in Big 12 play, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and they head to Boulder, where Colorado, I think Youmans, all were on Kansas last week, and for a third straight week, the Big 12 Grim Reaper walked around and knocked on the door of a big-time squad, beating Iowa State 3 weeks ago, beating BYU, and then last week, Devin Neal running wild against this Colorado team. So Colorado, as you mentioned, still has a chance, need help, as there are 4 6-2 teams in conference play. Arizona State and Iowa State get in with a win. Colorado laying 16 here in this spot against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State put up some big-time numbers last week, which was interesting to see there. I'm not going to try to pronounce their quarterback's first name. Smith is his last name.
Yeah.
M. Smith.
Maliowaukee, I believe.
He was good.
Or Milwaukee, whatever you want to call him. But, yeah, the freshman quarterback from Sacramento was really good. They put up 48 points. He threw 326, 2 touchdowns, did throw a pick, also ran for a touchdown. So this is going to be interesting, Tim, and I did take 17 here. I'd take 16.5, a little bit smaller. It's really not a backing of Oklahoma State, who's trying to avoid going winless in the Big 12. It's kind of more of a bet against Colorado because I do believe, I think if we look at any of the NFL mock drafts, that this is probably going to be Shedeur Sanders' last game in Boulder as Colorado quarterback. Certainly not his last in a Buffs uniform, as Coach Prime indicated earlier this week. But you say what you want about Colorado, and look, Deion Sanders has a little bit of a Messiah complex. I think that would be fair to say. I don't think I'm casting any aspersions there on Coach Prime, but he's got a better program than where he found it, clearly. Colorado, I think, has improved defensively this year. They can throw the ball. They can score. They still can't run the ball at all. They're still one of the worst teams in the country at doing that. But this is going to be an emotional day, I think. If this is Shedeur's last game and your son is the star quarterback. Senior day is not like, oh, man, we're going to come out hellfire and brimstone and just beat the heck out of whoever we're playing. It's a melancholy day. It's a sad day. So I think the Buffs are a little bit inflated here over the winless in conference play Oklahoma State Pokes.
That game noon on Friday, ABC. Colorado, I don't know about you, I always remember the Colorado-Nebraska game on that Friday, and now Colorado taking on Oklahoma State. Let's sneak in one more game also in that noon window on Friday. CBS, Minnesota at Wisconsin. The Gophers, they gave it all they had last week. A cover for,
They rode the boat.
Yeah.
Enough for a cover.
A cover for most of us as we back the Gophers in that spot. They're already bowl eligible. Wisconsin, I had Nebraska last week. I didn't officially give it out in the podcast. I talked more about it on the tailgate show, but I like Wisconsin here in this spot. Market's disagreeing. It's coming in on Minnesota. Looks like you get around $1.20 on the money line. That's the way I would go. Luke Fickell needs this game, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to get fired. They need this win. It's been a terrible year. Phil Longo, as OC, gets fired. Didn't fit well there. I think Wisconsin wins the axe. Give me Wisconsin here in this spot.
Yeah, I lean Badgers on the money line here to try to get the 6-6, get bowl eligible, and win Paul Bunyan's axe.
Chop it down. Chop that wood? No, that's a different team. There's a lot of chopping. There's a lot of oaks and buckets. There's a lot going on here in the Big Ten. That's Wes Reynolds. I'm Tim Murray. Plenty more games to get to, as well as our best bets recap next here on VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast. Keep it rolling here Final segment of the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast alongside Wes Reynolds. I'm Tim Murray. Best Bets recap coming up at the end of this segment. Just a reminder, we've got ourselves a great deal going on. I know it's shopping season for the holiday season. We got our own special, the Black Friday special. You get everything we offer as a VSiN Pro subscriber for $60 all the way through May 1st. So make sure you check it out. All of our experts' picks. I think Wes Reynolds throws in a couple picks into that page. I'm not sure. I have to double check. Every once in a while, Wes, you throw in a pick or two, right?
I win. Google me, Tim. As great Kurt Signetti would say.
We got to get through a bunch of games here, so let's go through rapid fire, and let's stick on Friday, noon Eastern. Let's go to Greenville, North Carolina. Stop by Sup Dogs, get a drink, get a little food before you head over to the stadium. I like East Carolina. The market's going nuts on them, so I took money line earlier in this week. I put it in on that picks page at minus 115, so it pays to be a VSiN subscriber, get a little bit less juice, but I'll just run through the situation here real quickly on East Carolina. I think the spot's good for them, Wes. They're already bowl eligible, but big news this week. They are taking the interim tag off of Blake Harrell, who's done a very nice job filling in for Mike Houston, who was fired earlier this year. How about Navy? What do they have to play for? And I know it's the midshipmen. They're always going to be motivated. But let's be real. They can't win the AAC. It's going to be Army versus Tulane, no matter what. That is set in stone. The biggest game of the year every year is Army. They have a chance to win the Commander-in-Chief Trophy for the first time in 2 years. The only way they're winning it this year, I'm telling you, is if Blake Horvath is healthy. He ain't healthy right now, so does he play? Is he limited? He was banged up against Tulane. Granted, that was 2 weeks ago. I like the spot for East Carolina. Give me them on the money line. Give me the Pirates, and then go get a couple beers on me at Sup Dogs.
I think they'll be motivated for the new coach. Harold gets the job. It's like, hey, coach, congratulations. So you might see an inspired effort. I might be with you on this one.
All right, 3:30 Eastern, also on Friday. It's sad this isn't on Thanksgiving, but it is what it is.
It's a damn shame that it's not on Thanksgiving,
The Egg Bowl, I won't do what the touchdown celebration was a couple years ago in the end zone in this one. Mississippi State at Ole Miss. Mississippi State, let me just say this. As a massive dog, they're actually pretty good. Covered against Georgia, covered against Texas, covered against Texas A&M. Where's the mindset of Ole Miss here? Laying 26 after, let's be honest, having their season ruined a week ago.
I wonder if this got moved to Friday afternoon because the price of eggs are more expensive, as you know, Tim, currently, if you've been following the news. But anywho, I could only be on Mississippi State here because I don't know what the Rebels have left in the tank. Look, this is Jeff Lebby's first time coaching in this rivalry. This is Mississippi State's season as they're 2-9. So you got to think that they're going to give the max effort here. We know Ole Miss can be explosive, and they can put it on bad teams, certainly. But rivalry game, I would only be on the underdog here.
Maybe the best name of the entire weekend. Clean, old-fashioned hate. That's what we got in Georgia Tech, as Georgia, a massive favorite, as they always are, 18.5, 19.5, depending on where you look, against Georgia Tech in this spot. You know, Kirby Smart, and you were on, I believe, UMass last week. Correct me if I'm wrong, on the VSiN page there. So you got the SEC championship next week. Georgia Tech, Brent Key, very, very good in this dog role. I haven't bet this game yet, but it would be dog or pass here for me in this rivalry game. Friday night, on ABC.
And that win, but no cover against UMass last week. Georgia now has 2 touchdown favorites and more on an 0-6 run, ATS. So the Mean Machine in the red and black may get a little bit of resistance from the Rambling Wreck this week. Georgia Tech already in a bowl, but they'll treat this like a bowl game. They've been absolutely dominated by Georgia, whether it's been in Atlanta or Athens. So I feel like this is just a couple points too high.
Quick thoughts on these games. Let's go back to Saturday, noon, ESPN2. Kansas, Baylor, the Jayhawks, Rock Chalk. Thank you very much to Lance Leipold for the winners these past couple of weeks. I'll be honest, I couldn't jump off just yet just because you've been so good to me, Kansas, but I think this price has gone a little bit too far. They shouldn't be a road favorite at Baylor.
You've been so good to me. You know you make me wanna. And Kansas has been making their fans shout, including their basketball contingent that was here in Las Vegas last night.
Great game.
But, you know, I wonder how much Kansas does have left in the tank off 3 big efforts, off beating Iowa State, off beating BYU, off beating Colorado. Now, bowl eligibility absolutely on the line here. I kind of think that they get it. Baylor, by the way, got a win last week. That was one I was wrong on against Houston. I thought Houston was going to cover because Baylor had just gotten bowl eligible. Baylor wins kind of a slugfest rock fight 20-10, but I feel like KU is the better team, and they've beaten the better competition in conference play. Remember, they played Arizona State very close as well. So I think Rock Chalk, I don't know, too late to turn back now. I think they get that 6th win and get bowl eligible.
Yeah, and once again, the 5th win on the line there. Let's go to Wrigley Field, noon, Big Ten Network. Northwestern taking on Illinois. This is going to be a best bet for you and Matt Youmans. The Purple Cats catching 7.5.
Yeah, look, Illinois, very surprising season. I thought they were going to struggle to get 6 wins, and now they're at 9. So, Illinois, they got in the college football playoff rankings, and they're Penn State saving grace, by the way, right now, because that's really the only good win Penn State has. So the market certainly respects Illinois, but Purple Cats, I think, not being able to go to a bowl game, they did not get it done. They looked awful at Michigan, got blown out 52-6. I think they show up here, though, in Wrigley. Second time, by the way, they played there because they played Ohio State there a couple weeks ago. So 7.5, a little high for the Flying Illini for me.
All right, let's stay in that noon window, CBS Sports Network. Let's go to West Point, Mikey Stadium on the banks of the Hudson River. Army laying 7 against Meep Meep. UTSA. Army will be playing in the AAC Championship next week. And a note that I unearthed, and Brad Powers talked about it on his podcast. I appreciate the shout out, Brad, for it. Opponents who've played Notre Dame the following week, they're 0-8 against the spread. If you include Northern Illinois and Florida State, who had a bye after playing Notre Dame, they're 0-9-1 ATS. And I think that applies to Army here because they got beat to hell against Notre Dame. And Bryson Daly, who we know is already kind of nicked up, 39 carries against the Irish last week. UTSA is playing much better right now. I was able to get 7.5 on Sunday. Still would play it at 7. Give me the touchdown with the triangle of toughness.
I'm with you here because, look, when you play Notre Dame, who is a physical, tough team, you take a pounding, even if you're tough like our cadets up there at Army at West Point. But, yeah, tough spot because not only you have the conference championship game, but your biggest game of the year is, of course, against the Naval Academy, as you well know. But I just think Army, physically, are they going to be there? And UTSA, by the way, does get that one extra prep day because they did play Friday night where they beat Temple and got bowl eligible. And that's a spot more often than not when you get that 6th win that I want to fade that team next time out. Not here necessarily. Give me the Roadrunners. Maybe
Rutgers at Michigan State, FS1, 3:30. I'm going to take Michigan State here. Short home favorite, Jonathan Smith and company trying to get the bowl eligibility. I know you're paying a tax. I totally respect that. Rutgers, the way that game ended last week, just a bizarre finish for the Scarlet Knights. I think you're going to get the best effort from Jonathan Smith's squad, who would love nothing more to be bowl eligible year 1 there in East Lansing. I took the Spartans here. Anything for you?
Would lean Spartans here. You got to wonder with Rutgers, too, with the way that they lost to Illinois. That's a game they should have won, that they led almost throughout and let it get away. Illinois goes for the touchdown and eschews the long field goal and gets the win there in Piscataway.
All right, quick 2 games here before we get to best bet recap. Cal at SMU. Cal coming off of a game in which their quarterback was, I'm not saying this in a negative way, he was weeping on the field. Fernando Mendoza, a hell of a comeback. 98 yards with my boys. I would fade Cal here. The Ponies are a wagon. Washington and Oregon, nothing for me in this one. Oregon laying 18.5. Both these teams coming off a bye.
Yeah, and Oregon, by the way, next week has Ohio State. More than likely, assuming Ohio State beats Michigan, that's who they'll face in Indianapolis for the Big Ten title game.
Battle of the Fremont Cannon, Allegiant Stadium. I took the points with Nevada. Give me the Wolf Space Pack here against UNLV. 18s are out there. And then the last night on the card in the regular season, New Mexico at Hawaii. I need this win for the Rainbow Warriors to get me to my win total over. Not sure if we're going to get there. Bowl eligibility on the line for the Lobos.
Speaking of over, I'd go over on the total.
And that is a best bet from Matt Youmans. So let's get to our best bet recap to wrap up the show. And here we go. I'll run through mine real quickly. East Carolina, money line against Navy. Syracuse plus the points against Miami. Texas A&M plus 6. Michigan State on the money line against Rutgers. Nevada plus 18 against UNLV. UTSA plus 7. And then hold your nose, Arizona State. What do you got, Wes?
We do concur on a couple of these, as a matter of fact, especially the UTSA. I took 7.5, would still take 7 in that spot, certainly. But we'll start off Friday. Oklahoma State getting 17 at Colorado. Vanderbilt plus 11. Northwestern plus 7.5. Arizona in the duel in the desert plus 9. The Aggies gig 'em plus 6 against Texas. LSU lay the 6 against Oklahoma. And where you'll be on Saturday, you're going to see a close game. USC plus 7.5 against your Fighting Irish.
Don't like that. I don't like that whatsoever, but I do like hanging with Wes Reynolds. Thanks to Steph, our producer. Thanks to Ryan Hunter. Thanks to Matt Youmans as well. This has been the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at 0 cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.